Understand why your compressor plugin actually works, I'll break it down for you. Here's an audio signal. Okay, a compressor does three major things. You've got your threshold. People talk about compression in a downward fashion. This is how much compression you're applying. Everything above the threshold, if something registers from that signal above that decibel level, it's going to bring it down at a ratio according to what you set it. If you put that ratio knob all the way down at 1:1, that's no compression. You're not doing anything. And if you put it to infinity, if you crank that ratio knob all the way, it's going to act as a limiter, and you're actually doing total compression, total signal removal above that threshold. Big reading for compressors is gain reduction, GR, and it works downwards. How much gain are you taking out of the signal at any one time? A knee, just think about it as roundness. This is just general. How smooth, how soft is that effect taking place? A knee can give you a more gradual effect to your compressor. It's more tweaking for me. Not all compressors have a knee feature. This is what I want to get into mainly, and these are the main dials you'll see on a compressor: attack and release. And to the left is usually your fast attack, and to the right will be your slow. Same for release. And it's different on all compressors, okay? I want you guys to understand that attack and release can be wildly varying among compressors. What you need to understand is attack is pokiness. Attack is how much the sound pokes out over the rest of the track. How much are you making it up front? How much are you bringing it out over the rest of the peaks? And that's not literal. I mean, if you take the decibel reading, you could have it not actually poking over volume-wise, but because you have a faster attack, it just sounds more poignant, more in front. I like to think of release as density, as thickness of this compression, as how long this compression lasts. And it usually ranges fast to slow in milliseconds. This is the time that it takes before either of these will act. So your signal hits the threshold at a certain ratio and a certain knee. How many milliseconds is it before the attack hits? And once that happens, how much time does that happen for? And a slower release, the longer you crank that release knob, the fatter this effect is. I love to compare volume gain to compressor strength. You can have something that's loud enough, but it just doesn't have the balls. So you have to add compression to let that sound sink into the track, sink its teeth into the track, and give the sound a place in the song. If you don't have a compressor on something, sometimes it just doesn't have the nuts. A few more things here because they don't show up everywhere, but range is going to be your total amount of compression. It goes from 0 to 72 decibels, which means 0 is going to be zero compression. Hold is going to be just kind of a hold on the compressor regardless of the release, which is a curve. It's not a steady release. It's not a steady fall off. So hold is just a flat max gain reduction effect for a certain amount of milliseconds, and then the release happens. It's just good for making sure that compression happens regardless of the release settings you have. Look ahead is going to be a kind of predicting the future algorithm for these plugins. It's going to catch sharp transients a certain amount of milliseconds ahead of the signal. The compressor is going to anticipate maybe a sharp drum hit and capture it before this stuff would catch it. If you have a setting for maybe 3 or 6 milliseconds of look ahead. And then makeup gain, we talked earlier about gain reduction, and you're bringing down the gain, you're bringing down the volume, but you're bringing up the density. Sometimes that isn't enough, and you need to crank the makeup gain or the wet gain to make up for that. And then oversampling is just the plugin working overtime and making your CPU go burr. And then it's just cranking your shit to get a better sound and reducing harmonics. To be clear, just because you now know all these things doesn't make you necessarily a good mixing engineer. You still have to use your ear. You still have to maybe play around with these settings and see if you would find your sound that way. I use multiple compressors. I use a bunch of different ones. Sometimes I use 3 compressors on a vocal. I use different types of compressors. You can look into all this stuff. It's actually super complicated, and it's very understandable why people don't understand compression. There's things about it that I don't understand. I'm learning, and once I learn, I'm going to be right back here, and I'm going to teach you guys to follow this page, mixing tips.